Hello and welcome. Let's talk about Blackcoin today. Let's talk about mathematics and some other alternate coins, everything you do within your own risk and your own reward. I'll go over Fibonacci mathematics at the end of the video. However, if you really didn't destroy the algebra game in high school, or you don't understand more of higher intermediate to low advanced level mathematics, you just will not get it. However, it's interesting when it regards towards Fibonacci upside, which is with its whole intent purpose of me looking at it. All right then, let's get started with BLK. And I got a lot of them for two primary reasons. Number one is because of how good I am at trading. But number two is how poor my memory is. If my memory was better, then I wouldn't have acted the way that I did moments ago in buying more of these that I should not have purchased. But I'm fine, I'll explain. Daily chart for BLK sees a low at 1750. We can see highs hit twice at around 84.35, again at 8,000. But it was hit twice at the high level at 8,500 even. So 84.35. 84.35 and a low of 1775. And Fibonacci is working well. 46.91 representing the upper level of these two and the lower level in at 32.37. Both of them acting as tremendous support within the market along the way. But you can say right now this is lifting off from its third time. So that's the bad news, in the sense that the more likely you test it, the more likely it is that you're going to take it out. However, in the 18 average band as it's playing through, it moved into a declining facet that if it does hold and make moves above the up towards the 37.92 area, then that could that would make this 18 go into a nice full neutral functional mode, and the negative bias would remove a lot based on that, and you would then be looking to start to talk about the more likelihood that it could start to reverse from that point forward. So before I go over even more longer term information, and then I'm going to go over the mathematics actually, because I'm going to relate it to this code as well. Let's take a look at this very short term on the 15-minute time frame. And yesterday, as this thing was breaking well past 3,600, which would have been during this period in here, I noticed I was able to buy at 35. And I thought, you know what, let's just take them from a smaller exchange where I bought them from and move them to a larger exchange, which is Bittrex, of course. And well, obviously up and down quickly. Yeah, I had a chance to sell for a small loss in here. Didn't do it. I have just completely held it, but I forgot all about it, which is very interesting. And I bought a decent amount, just a little more than I normally would. So I then had whatever black coin that I had on a smaller exchange, I was fortunate enough to sell this morning at an extremely large price. I'm going to have to go back to the daily time frame to show you where. But I'm enthusiastic about this because this happens more times than not. It was above this second line. I sold it right above, below this resistance line at around 59. That's a huge buyback profit. Interestingly enough, I bought about 1.7% of the tokens back that I bought the day before immediately. Meaning, I sold X amount at 6,000. I bought basically X multiply 1.4 back at the current price at around 34, 39-ish area. which basically was the amount that I bought yesterday almost. It's 2% like more. I should have been like, oh, okay, so I yesterday bought it. I had sell orders in at different spots that never got hit. I'm still holding it. It hasn't went down really. Technically speaking, because I had already bought the 35, then I'm going to, I already had it, so I didn't really have to buy it. So I'm still trying to sell it up for decent profits in at around the 36 level. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might have to sell it if it breaks down in a stop loss kind of method, and probably will. Okay, so I want to talk about mathematics, how I'm playing these types of codes and the strategy, and how interestingly it might be. So I'm going to go over the mathematics within the strategy. So let's get started. Let me bring up the chalkboard. But actually, before I do, let me bring up the Litecoin chart first. Because on the 4-minute warning, which is the replacement to the 2.5-minute warning, I talked about some key levels. This is Litecoin against the US dollar. Let's go to the daily time frame. I have these numbers, but I also added the 497, the 597, and the 801. How were these numbers calculated? Well, I took this high in here, and that level comes into about 370 and 78 cents. Then I took the low, and I got the number right there, but I didn't put the line in here, but the low is in at 106.52. I also didn't put the next key level below here, but I will if it goes down there, of course. So I got the calculation for the Fibonacci upside, which came in at 801.43. But what I wanted to do was look at shorter term numbers, and therefore the calculations in which I did was I took the high of around the 800 number, and then I divided it by the low, by the previous high, which is 370.78. And then I found out where the 38.2 and 61.8% retracements were. And that's where they were. And then I just knew. I'm thinking to myself, I know almost exactly that if I were to do, say, high divided by low, and maybe do 1.382, that it's going to come to 597. I'm saying this to myself. Yep. And if I do 1.236, it's going to come to 497, correct? Yeah, it did. So let me bring up the chalkboard. And these are the formulas that we have. Highest price equals H, which is around like the 300-ish area. The low price, a little over 100, is the low, and that's the case for Litecoin again. So up target is equal high divided by low to the root of 68 point, however many decimals you want to use. This is how many 6 decimals would look like. Multiply the low. And then in here, this number here, which is the up target, divided by the high. And then, of course, this is what I did. And I would multiply it again by the high, which is really the lower number of the two. Well, that formula equals the exact same as this formula. And how do I get 1.381966? Well, that is very easy. 1 plus 61.8% multiplied to the power of 2. This is 1 plus 0.618 to the power of 3, which would equal 0.236. But the numbers come up really well. So an idea that I had was take the upside target, which is in the Litecoin case is 800 or so, but 801. If you just want to do math quick to get round numbers, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Just using 800, totally fine. So you take 800, divide it by one of these above numbers, which is either you're going to choose the 597 or the 497. And again, you could use 600 or 500 just to make the numbers even, as it's close enough basically. And then again, let me bring up the thing. So then again, you multiply it by the the fib level. So the numbers that I got, U above, the upside target divided by above to the root of 1.618. What this would recognize or tell me is if it gets past 800, where would some next levels come into play? I did quick calculations on the spreadsheet, and I got 1290 and 1732. So basically, when I divide it by the lower number, I got the 17 and then 12 on the other one. And also the major target that I have already calculated is the 2635. So the reason why I'm saying this one is really the main one on a break of 800 for long-term trading is because when I've done my look at upside Fibonacci, what I have recognized is that the 1.618 target is good and weak. What do I mean by good and weak? It's a good, decent leg higher, and it's a very good move where you would say, like in a sports game, good effort, you did well. But key word is you did well. You did not do magnificent. No. And I have oftentimes seen these levels do either one of two things, and that's really not resist much or any at all and just keep on going. And Litecoin earlier is one of them. In fact, I should probably look back at its history if I'm looking for ultimate insane upside levels, but that'll be for another time or another hour, either or. And when I see how markets do when they break past these key levels, I have oftentimes seen the 2.618 level come into play. So instead of rooting this original formula by 161, you do it by 2.61. And that's that number that comes in within that calculation is 2,635. However, the third target becomes extremely insane. What would the next number be? You go 1.618, then you go 2.618. The answer is 4.236. For 1.618 to the power of 2 is 2.618. So obviously to the power of 3 is the next one that I'm going. If I take this calculation to the 4.23, the price objective would be in at around, well, 20,000, and the next one above that would be over 500,000. So maybe those insane levels will become interesting in time, because the analysis that I have been using in calculating Fibonacci, even before I even got into cryptocurrencies, was always using, like I stated, the this formula in here, and like I noted, 2.618 I've seen happen on several occasions. It's been very rare. I can't remember one example at all actually, where I've seen the 4 point number come in on a decent price variable. Because the only way I could ever track that in traditional markets was with short-term numbers, like, oh, market goes from 100 down to 95. That was the only way I could ever track it before. But when you're talking decent sized moves where high divided by low, like in this case is greater than 3, it makes the numbers extreme. But that's the whole point of the situation, is it explains its volatility. So when you have correctionary moves that lose 3 times its value, keyword, correctionary moves, small down retracements, well then, that means that can explain the big moves. And if you really want to explain what the moves are like to go from point A to point B, and it's 1,000 times higher, 800 times higher, some insane number, greater than well over 100, that is, then you're going to have to go through some retracements that are going to be very interesting. And then you're going to have a lot of people talking, the anti-people I'm talking about, that will say, man, this move going down 50%, 60%, I can hear this in the future. People are going to be talking about Bitcoin, but even Litecoin when it gets extremely popular. oh, Litecoin is garbage. Why would you buy something with no tangible value? It was at like 8,800 and now it's down to 1,970. Why would you even get into it? It's lost like 70, 80%. I'm expecting that type of talk to continue to go on, which is another word of saying high volatility, high speed roller coaster. Now let's go back to Blackcoin, which I talked about at the start of this video, and a longer term time frame. I had the Fibonacci from here to here. So when you're looking at upside targets on something that's way down, you really go regular Fibonacci. As when I talk about the strategy about unloading a lot at one time, which I will be in this finishing off of this video, then in those charts, I'll be looking to sell when prices are at levels like not seen before. But in this case, no, I'm just hoping to get a decent retracement. This thing has been in a major downtrend, but it has a decent move down, move ups, back and forth. That's what I'm looking for as a trader. Now, Blackcoin is traded on so many different exchanges, it becomes relatively easy to arbitrage in that and buy and sell them for basic gains. In the case, like I state, when someone decides to buy it off me for 40% more than what it's worth, actually like 80% more than what it's worth, or 70, then yeah, thank you. But the whole idea is accumulate as many of them as I can until they go really high. And in this case, really high would be somewhere in here. So therefore, if I can buy X amount, or rather, excuse me, if I could sell right now X amount at A units, then I'm going to buy Y amount paying A units. Therefore, maybe selling 500 and buying 600 back, so on and so forth. And then through the game, as this keeps going sideways, and I do this over several amount of days and weeks and possibly months, when it does get to these points in here, that's when I'll look at what I started with. For example, if you started with, say, 1% of a Bitcoin, that's what you always enter in with. Okay, you buy it, you sell it, you go back and forth. The next thing you know, you have got, when the price is up here, maybe 3 times more, 4 times more the amount of tokens or coins, and they're worth about 4 times more. So the value is like 16, 17, 20, whatever times more from where you started. The idea would be to sell about 3/4 of them, but leaving at least 15 to 20% of them back, and then keep on doing the same thing. And then if the price has a major decline after you sell, then you have the opportunity to be like, oh man, back here, I sold X amount for this much. Heck, I can buy this, and heck, that's a good deal. And that's going to be part of the plan. So what level am I going to look to sell? Well, now I want to calculate Fibonacci from the last high in at around the 24,000 level and the 1850 level. And after calculating, this is a case of, I think, a really bad logarithmic chart. For 38.2% is at around 5,000, where this line is. And 61.8% is at about 9,000. Very close to this high. Therefore, in just knowing how a chart would look if I looked at this at a normal logarithmic setting, with this line being closer to up here, then what I would probably do, instead of like, I'm looking to sell 75, a large percentage at a one time, I would probably look to unload about half in this area. And then if it makes previous 2014 area highs at around the 40,000 level, then I would look to unload practically all of them. Codes like Komodo, I expect this thing within time to break through this resistance and have very good levels up towards here. In that stage is where I would like to liquidate 3/4 plus of my position, but I'll be using upside mathematical Fibonacci levels as the time moves on to decide whereabouts the place I'll be looking to sell at. And it's probably just going to work out to 61.8% from this high down to this low. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.